Well, Gavin Newsom is losing his mind again as he is wanting very clearly to be the Democrat nominee for President of the United States here in 2028. Never forget for a single moment how radical and a leftist communist that Gavin Newsom is. And now that he is trying to go on the main stage, be president of the United States of America, he all of a sudden is pretending that he is somehow some kind of moderate, which is blatantly not true. As he is trying to pick a fight with everybody and get himself as many on the national stage as he can, whether go on to Joe Rogan or go with Charlie Kirk and all of a sudden pretend that he is some kind of moderate for the Democrat Party. And to do this, of course, he is blatantly lying over and over and over again about his past positions. And the thing for the Democrats now is it's very different than it was like in 2008 and it was in 2012 for Barack Hussein Obama. Because one of the huge differences now versus what it was for them back then is now that we have the rise of the independent creators. See, from back then, you had a Barack Obama who was just as insane as a radical, probably more so than Gavin Newsom. But the only way to get mass amounts of information back then out from now was that there was only the mainstream media. And this be either the MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, Political Axios, every single one of them were Team DNC. But they would pretend that they were none of those things. And they would all pretend that they were somehow like neutral journalists when they were blatantly and openly lying for the Democrats. Now, when they would do this, for the most part, is they would tell you half truths. And then they cover the parts they didn't want you to know, either by ignoring the stories, or they'd only tell you the piece of the story that they wanted to know. But none of these people, not a single one, has a journalistic bone in their body. In fact, that every single one of them are Team DNC. These are radical leftist activists who are pretending to be journalists. And the Democrats, they've relied on this for far too long. But now that we have independent creators, now we have a much larger share of the market than they do. They are no longer able to lie for the Democrats anymore. And this has been proven over and over and over again. If the mainstream media, if they had the way that they could lie before, then Donald Trump would not be president right now. And they look at what they threw at him. You had all the impeachment hoaxes. You had the January 6 hoaxes. You had the 34 felony hoaxes. You had the Gene Carroll hoaxes. You had the boxes hoaxes, hoax after hoax after hoax thrown at Donald Trump. Yet none of them worked. I mean, even like the suckers and losers hoaxes didn't work, or the 9 bullet hoaxes, right? All these radical leftist activists in the mainstream media knew that they were lying and they couldn't get away with it. This is because of the independent creators. See, for decades, there was an entire generation that grew up on corporate media. And they, just like you, they didn't believe, but they couldn't find another way to gain other information. And so you had all of them, CNN, ABC, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, every single one of these that were pretending to be independent were not independent. They were all running the same stories together. And so many of you would think, well, I don't think like that. Or I don't agree with that opinion, but you really had no other way to get information. And so many people thought, well, maybe that I'm the one that's weird. Maybe I'm the one that's an oddball here. I mean, I don't agree with what they're saying, but if every paper, if every news organization is saying the exact same thing, well, then maybe I'm the issue. Maybe I'm the one who doesn't think right. But none of that was true then, and none of that was true now. What was different then is you had a very small segment of the media who had a complete monopoly on information and was lying to an entire generation. The thing is, most people do think like you do. Most are independent thinkers. Most are conversationalists. Yet, thanks to the fake news networks, they would lie to you, the American people, and get away with it. And that was until we had the rise of the independent creators like we do now. Thanks mainly to Elon Musk when he purchased Twitter 1.0, and then he added in and changed it to X and gave it actual free speech. we were able to show just how much they were lying to you, the American people. And this caused many people to realize that, hey, you know what? We're being lied to. And then so they started doing what natural independent theaters do and conversations do, is they started seeking out the truth. And then they found out that they're not the oddballs, that you are not weird, that most people are somewhere in the middle. Middle right, middle left. I think if you'd ask most Americans, they're probably more middle left on social issues, would be more middle right, that they would be on, let me see. Oh gosh, give me just a second. So we have this stupid thing here where I got this TikTok stupid violation that happens every time. So give me just a second as I go through this and I screw this. This is so infuriating because people will go and report when I've done and said nothing wrong. And then TikTok will just shut down the stream. And I have to deal with it right in the middle of it, because what are we talking about here? The mainstream media was lying. And then all of a sudden that clicks onto a thing that I have to appeal when they've been blatantly and proven to be lying over and over and over again. And as I type this in real quick, I have done nothing wrong. And I guess maybe I need to find a way to kind of word around that. And so that stops happening, because last time this happened, it took them about 10 minutes to give me my access back. And so hopefully this goes pretty quick, but you never really know. So we'll let that slide and we'll go back into the rest of the stories. I really appreciate everyone being with you. This is part of being a conservative, is that the left constantly wants to silence us as we go and we talk about the fake news networks, right, who have been lying to the American people for a very long time, very easily proved now because we don't have the filter of the mainstream media anymore, because we can actually get the information out to you, the American voters. And now that it's realizing it, now that they lose all their influence, now that independent creators are growing at an exponential rate, that this show is growing at such quick. We just brought up like TikTok. Our show on TikTok for our bracket has been the #1 show for 3 days straight. And now over on X and the rest of the areas that we're going, we're averaging about 10,000 viewers an episode and a little over 200,000 viewers a month. So starting from zero, from absolutely nothing, not a following, no one had ever heard. This is straight zero. And I really appreciate every single one of you and all the support that you've shown this show. I can't stress enough how much this means to me, that you've stuck around, you've helped the show grow, because without you, none of this was possible. Now, this brings in to Gavin Newsom, as he is trying to go in and he's trying to be the presidential for the Democrats, that he's going to try to run for them in 2028 as a presidential nominee. I really hope the Democrats fall for it, because they have no one else to go to. Now, Gavin Newsom, he is, of course, pretending that he is somehow a moderate here in the Democrat Party, which he has blatantly been lying about. And we spent a lot of time on the mainstream media and all the lies that they tell you, the American people. The other side of that is, now that we have the rise of the independent creators, that they can no longer get away with it. And so unlike where Barack Hussein Obama was able to lie to you, the American voters, that he was not. And this is why when Gavin Newsom, when he tries to go onto the main stage and he tries to run for president, they're foolish enough to run for him, that all his lies are going to be exposed. We're going to have huge deals on the we're going to have huge wins here on our side of on the street because of independent creators. As we have gone and we have shown how the Democrats and how the fake news are lying to you, the American people. So do it. Please put Gavin Newsom on the main stage. Let him pretend that he is somehow some kind of little moderate. As his next battle that he's trying to argue, when he goes like on Joe Rogan and he's gone on places like Charlie Kirk, is saying like, see, I can go up against the middle and I can sit there and I can talk to the right. See, I'm the moderate that the Democrats need. Blatantly, of course, not true. And this is what he's going to find out. As when he gets questioned about his past, even like how he has allowed biological males to be in biological female sports and spaces, he's going to go, well, there's kind of some nuances there. And he does these weird little things with his hands. Or when he goes And he sits there and he tries to lie about what they've been doing with transgender, this being biological males, of course, being biological females, as what they're doing with these surgeries to underage minors. And he's going, well, there's kind of some little nuances there. See, this is all going to get exposed by us as we're going to dig in and we're going to show as he lies side by side. Is he's going to go in front of fake news, watch. And he's going to sit there and he's going to try to tell a lie to fake news and go, see, I got away with it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take his lie and we're going to put it right next to the truth. Just like we did to Kamala Harris, just like we did to Joe Biden, and just like we did to all the rest of the fake news networks, as we were the proof that they were lying. Now, his next lie with the Gavin Newsom is now that the Democrats decide they're so upset that the Republicans are gerrymandering their districts, like in Texas and possibly now in Florida. And this could go more than 5 seats in Texas, and who knows in Florida. And so this is causing for Gavin Newsom, and he's sitting there and he's trying to lie to you, the American voters, about this. And this was on the map here, if I can bring this up, where JD Vance, he posted, the gerrymandering in California is outrageous. Out of the 52 congressional districts, 9 of them are Republican. That means 17% of the delegation is Republican, where Republicans regularly win 40% of the vote. And we're going to cover this a lot deeper as we prove how bad he's lying. Now, JD Vance, when he posts that, Gavin Newsom, he responded and he said, no, dumb, try again. And then to make this even more ridiculous, is he posted this map that says most gerrymandered states in 2025. But as we're going to show, and this is why it would be foolish for the Democrats to try to run Gavin Newsom, is so he shows a map with no data, with no evidence, nothing whatsoever, just all the states, and then he happens to green click 5 of them. Now we're going to continue what the internet has already done to him, because this is blatantly and false, 100% not true. And we can show it in the very next slide, is now what JD Vance pointed out, which is 100% true. See, the Democrats, they have been gerrymandering their states for a very long time. They're doing the same thing. They're not mad at all about any change of congressional seats. What they're mad about is that they can gerrymander, they can change seats away to give them more seats. But the minute the Republicans do it, all of a sudden this is racist and this is bigot and this is homophobe. Now here's the facts. Here is the evidence. California alone, like JD Vance said, 40% of the state votes on the Republican side. Yet they only have 17% of the seats. So that's 9 out of 52. Where if this was an actual representing of the people of, the California, then it would be roughly around 30-20. Well, and this is just one single state. Massachusetts, 35% of Massachusetts votes Republican. 0% of the seats. And it just goes on and on and on down the list. So the Democrats, they do this all the time. This is what happens like in my area. Because what they do is they'll take some big, deep blue state, and inside that state, they will connect some deep, big blue city. And then they'll take that city and they'll do all the counties around it that are red and tie it as many as they can to that big city. So it essentially gets rid of the vote from the rest of the people in that state. I 100% guarantee that's what they're doing when they do all these, when they redistrict in the Democrat cities. But of course, the Democrats, this is fair when they do it. I mean, this is all about democracy when the Democrats do it. But the minute the Republicans do the exact same thing, all of a sudden this is racist and this is bigot and this is homophobe. Connecticut, 38% of the state votes Republican, 0 seats. In New York City, 42% vote Republican, yet only 26% have their seats as Republican. And it keeps going down the list. 0 in New Mexico, 0 in Hawaii, Oregon, only 1, Washington, only 2. Yet it's almost always about 40%, which is probably pretty close to being right. I think roughly the United States is about 1/3 Republican and 1/3 Democrat, somewhere in the middle there. And then the other third is somewhere in the middle, right? There's somewhat left, there's somewhat right. They're the independent voters, right? They're the swingers. But if you had just them, like these maps show, then the Democrats would lose a whole lot of seats. And this doesn't even count into like the census and all the things that are happening with the illegal aliens in our country. See how many you know when they count heads, that the census does not count whether you are a citizen or you are not a citizen. It just counts the heads. And so all these illegals that the Democrats brought in this country, they get counted in our census. Okay, that is the definition of foreign interference in our elections. I mean, am I right? There's reports that the California alone would lose 5 seats if they weren't able to count illegal aliens. Now all of a sudden you understand why they pretend to be for democracy is a blatant and ugly lie. What they really care about is votes. And just like here in California, 52, and they probably would be at 47 without illegal aliens. Now, not only of that, but only 17% of the 40% are represented. This is what happens if Gavin Newsom, if he tries to run for federal government. This will all be exposed over and over and over again. Facts. Please do it. Please let Gavin Newsom, with his slick, greasy hair, please let him try to go on the national stage, and please let him try to pretend he's a moderate. Because who else do the Democrats have? They have Kamala Harris, and she's trying to pretend that, that she is not running for governor. And why she doesn't say she's not running for when she said that she's not running for governor, it's very likely, of course, that she's going to try to run for president again in 2028. Please do. Please stick the Democrats in this terrible position. Should they run for the sick liar and vote for Gavin Newsom? Or should they go for Kamala Harris because of representation? Yes, Democrats, please learn no lessons. I mean, maybe they should try to run Jasmine Crockett or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I hear she's stunning and brave. Maybe Pete Buttigieg. And we can show pictures of him when he had the fake implants on his chest to feed a baby. Please do it. The Democrats, this is a thing of their own making. This is their own fault because they kicked everybody out that was moderate from their party. And now they are stuck with the most extreme radical leftists is all they have left. And now they only have those extreme radical leftists. They also can no longer depend on fake news to carry them anymore. Welcome to Screw Around. Welcome to Find Out. They did this to themselves. This is like what Elon posted earlier this year, where Elon was on the middle left, probably most of America. But the Democrats, they kept pushing further and further and further and left, that all of a sudden he turned down and he looked one day and he realized, I haven't changed at all. But the line to the middle is way over here now. And how many people say, well, I don't really agree with the Democrats on this issue. I mean, I do agree with them, most of them, but not on this issue. And then what immediately happens, they push them out of their party and they call them a racist or a bigot or a homophobe, a transphobe, a white nationalist, an extreme MAGA Republican. Not that they believe any of that, but try to silence them and shut them up. See, when they slander you, that's really what they're going for. Is they're trying to silence you into submission. And then they wonder why they're on the wrong side of every single 80-20 issue. This is the reason why. Welcome to learning nothing. So I hope they try to run them, because Gavin Newsom is pushing it, and this is the Democrats. This is their own creation. With that, we're way over a break. And speaking of how radical the left and Democrats are, we're going to cover Zohran Mamdani, who thinks that he is going to be the New York mayor, and he probably will be if we're looking at the current polls and the current betting, as he has a huge lead. And he is so extreme and so radical. And now he's doing just like Gavin Newsom is he's trying to pretend that he's not some radical communist, like we don't have the receipts. So we're going to play his clips, and then we're going to post what he has said himself to prove that he is again lying, just like Gavin Newsom and just like the rest of the Democrat Party. We are bringing the receipts to prove it. We'll be right back after this greedy profit break. This is the CASHLOREN Show. Well, Zohran Mamdani will very likely be the next mayor, of New York City. Now, the Zohran Mamdani he is trying to lie, just like we talked about with Gavin Newsom in the first segment, that he is somehow a moderate, when this guy is an extreme leftist communist. He is openly and blatantly a communist, as we've shown with what his statements have been repeatedly. And now he is what he calls himself is a democratic socialist. But make no mistake about any of the Democrats' isms, whether it be socialism or progressivism or liberalism or activism. All of their isms are just repackaged Marxism. And this is all to justify communism. In the left here, they often try to do this with their going for equity and inclusion. I mean, the end result, versus as opposed to what would be equality, meaning that you get an equal opportunity and then you make your own way in life. That is not at all what the Democrats believe in, as is also by a second chance also helps them when they use the definition of equity or DEI, is this kicks out people who should be qualified and of course brings up these radical leftist ideologues into all these positions they never could earn in the first place. So Zohran is to the left of all of them. He is blatantly a communist. I mean, all the things that he talks about. What does he say for starters? Is he wants to build communes in New York. He even released a video bragging about it. Communes meaning communism. He also wants to do government-run stores. Communism. You know, go ask Venezuela. Go ask Cuba. Go ask anywhere else that has tried to run government stores how well that has worked for them. And now his next crusade is one of the Democrats' famous favorites. And this is when something very terrible happens, like with guns, is immediately they try not to waste this opportunity from the communist left. As they try to exploit what this terrible tragedy that happened to take away your rights to carry firearms. And this is exactly what Zohran Mamdani is doing now, but also he is trying to pretend like he hasn't been anti-police this entire time now that he's passed the primary and trying to run to be New York governor or New York mayor. But of course, we have the receipts. So first, here is Zohran Mamdani pretending that he's not anti-guns.
How strong our gun laws are in this state. We are only as safe as the weakest laws in this nation. And to put forward a vision of stronger gun laws. And I echo the call from Governor Hochul for a nationwide ban on assault rifles.
Right, so he calls for a nationwide assault rifles. Of course, the Democrats will never waste an opportunity to try to take away your rights, which is protected by the Constitution of the United States of America. Your right to keep and bear arms. And the main thing, of course, the Democrats always try to do with these gun violence, and the point that they never ever want to point and talk about, is that these crazy people who go and target, they always go after gun-free zones. Or they always go where they don't think anybody can fight back, which is exactly what this lunatic did. I mean, they had a security officer, but the security officer wasn't allowed to have a weapon, so I guess he was just there for looks, and unfortunately lost his life, and so did others. So they don't ever want to talk about that, because if there had been firearms, lots of firearms, this never even would have tried it, because they know they would have just been shot dead in a split second. The Democrats, they never ever want to go and they never want to talk about this, because they know the minute they do that their entire argument falls apart. This tragedy won't work here, but he continues on lying about his position and the Democrats' position here in this next clip.
In the course of this race, I've been very clear about my view of public safety and the critical role that police have in creating that. Public safety that officers are tasked with delivering while we ask them to respond to nearly every failure of the social safety net. And the vision that we've put forward in this campaign, despite what others may say, is not to defund the police. It is, in fact, to allow those officers to respond to these serious crimes that many of them signed up to address.
What a blatant liar. I think this is something that is very on par for the Democrat Party. As every time they got to get in front of a camera, they have to lie like we don't have the receipts. And that's why they've relied on corporate media for such a long time to carry the water for them. As if he's going in front of media, they're not going to ask him any questions, and they're not going to do any pushback. And they're not going to play like these post here that we can do as independent creators. So this is the same Zohran Mamdani, and he posts, no, we want to defund the police. Wait a minute. I thought he just said 2 seconds ago that he doesn't want to defund the police. So which is it? Is he lying then or is he lying now? But of course, we know the answer to this. He is a devout leftist activist communist. And the thing that the Democrats always want to do, as they are communists, is take away your guns. Why? Because the moment they can take away your guns is the moment the rest of your freedoms go away. When the government is the only one that has weapons, the rest of your Bill of Rights no longer matter. I mean, look at every single country that gives up their firearms. Look what happens to that country. There is not one where it doesn't get better. There is not one where it doesn't get more tyrannical. I mean, Venezuela, again, right? They gave up their guns and now they're under another communist dictator. The same thing will happen here to the United States. If we don't fight for our rights and our freedoms right now, we don't fight for our rights to keep our guns, we will lose them. And the Democrats, they will lie about every single one of these situations to try to guilt trip you into giving up your freedoms. The moment you do that, the rest of your freedoms go away. And then he posts on this next one here. He goes, we don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist. Right? Remember in his clip how he was so thankful for the New York PD for giving him protection. They are anti-queer and a major threat to public safety. The police are a major public safety threat, according to Zohran Mamdani, who now needs those same racist, bigoted, homophobe police to protect him. But your deal with the New York City mayor using budget tricks to keep many cops as possible on the beat. He's talking to Mayor Adams. No to fake cuts. Defund the police. Okay, those are Zohran Mamdani's own words. No, we don't want to defund. No, we want to defund the police. Next one. No fake cuts. Defund the police. And then now he is, of course, trying to lie again. This is a newer post. Don't believe the mega billionaires funding Andrew Cuomo's fear-driven campaign. I will not defund the police. I will let them do their actual jobs by investing in blah, blah, blah. Okay, what did he just say? Defund the police. What was the last post? Defund the police. So which one is it lying? Was he lying then or was he lying now? And then what are the Democrats? What they all try to do in 2020, right? Defund the police. Remember, after all the riots, it was the police's fault. Just like after that, poor people got beat up in Cincinnati, it was social media's fault for pointing that out. Right? It wasn't the people who committed the crimes. No, it's always the victims of the crimes that the Democrats then go and try to take away the rights from. But if they've been heavily armed, right? I mean, this guy walked right up with a weapon, blatantly showing it. And people were completely defenseless in that building because of these policies. Because if they would have had a weapon, right, the Democrats would then want to lock them up. And then to put an icing on top of it. Did I put that one? This is the next one here. This is Zohran Mamdani again. And this is him laughing because a police officer was crying in a car. And what did Zohran Mamdani say? Nature is healing. This man, blatantly communist, hates our country, hates our freedoms, and hates our rights. And unfortunately, it's probably very likely that he will be the next mayor of New York City. And if people don't get up now and they don't fight back, they're going to find out what communism it really is. Because communism always leads to one of three outcomes. It always leads to either poverty, slavery, or death. Every single time. There is no other option. You always, when you give up your rights, you always fall to tyranny. That's the entire reason our Constitution was written, to stop people like Zohran Mamdani from ever gaining power here in the United States. And unfortunately, I think that we have had it good for far too long because people have forgotten what it was like. And now they've had it good. Now, thanks to capitalism, too many are believing the lies that the capitalism is the problem. when the capitalism is the one thing that's keeping them free. Your right to have equality is what keeps your rights, not equity. Equity takes your rights, what the Democrats want. Equality keeps your rights. Socialism will take all your rights away and give it to them. Just like Zohran Mamdani said, right? He hates the police. He wants to take your guns. But then on the exact same side, he gets protection, right? So he has police officers with guns to protect him. But you, as a citizen, you're not allowed to have police officers with guns to protect you. And you're not allowed to have guns to defend yourself because you're not part of the liberal elite. And he goes on, he continues to do the same insanity.
Life is sadly not the one that it was. There are far more threats. And with that comes precautions that I wish I didn't have to take, though they are also precautions that I am immensely grateful for, especially in the example of the NYPD detail that I have here in New York City.
Yeah, rules for thee, but not for me. He gets to have security, right? He gets to have protection because of the threats to his life. But you don't get to have protection for the threats in your life, see, because for you to have protection, that's somehow racist and bigoted. It's homophobic. See about the New York PD when they're not guarding him? They are racist, anti-queer. They are the major threat to the public safety. Well, that's true. Then why are they guarding him? That's a fair question, I think. And one, of course, the left cannot answer because they know they will be busting their lie. And we have the United States of America and our economy as the left is also busting another lie, is they've been lying to you about tariffs, yet tariffs are bringing back the golden age of the United States of America. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more when we come back from this greedy profit break. This is the CASHLOREN Show. Well, the Panicans and the Democrats and the Uniparty have all been wrong all over again, as they told us right from when Donald Trump came back and became president. They said that the tariffs were going to absolutely destroy America. That Donald Trump's tariffs, that they were going to cause a Great Depression like this world, the United States, has never seen before. That they were going to cause great and destructive catastrophe here on the United States economy. Well, of course, the experts were wrong again. And as they, I think, have been not being really experts, as they've actually been acting as activists. And thanks to Donald Trump coming back, we can now prove all that to be true. As Donald Trump and his tariffs have brought in hundreds of millions of dollars here into the United States of America. And now we have new Q2 numbers that are coming out. The GDP comes in stronger, as now in Q2, we're at 3% growth. And this was over the 6%. And then on the price index, the inflation is actually lower at 2%, as when it was estimated that it was going to be at 2.2%. See, Donald Trump and his policies were right again. And the Rand Pauls of the world, and the Thomas Masseys, and all the other Democrats, and all these so-called experts on fake news, all the other panicans, they all have egg in their face again. And no wonder no one trusts them, right? No wonder no one believes these people anymore. What did I say right from the get-go when Donald Trump came in and he took office? And I said correctly that the Democrats were going to try to move really quick. The Democrats and the mainstream media, they're going to try to blame Donald J. Trump for all the problems that they caused. And when they did that, then they could try to hopefully bully you and bully Donald Trump into not implementing his policies. But that hoax failed too. Remember how they started with the egg hoaxes? Oh, eggs are so prime, they're so expensive. This is all because of Donald Trump. Yeah, what did we find out right? Is that it was Joe Biden's administration that killed all the chickens that caused the egg shortage in the first place. And we recovered from that. Did any of the mainstream media, did any of the so-called experts, did any of the Democrats, have they apologized or admitted that they were wrong? Has a single one? No. You remember when the stock market was down and all of a sudden there were all the panicans, right? All the experts, All the ones that have been lying to you for this entire time went right back on fake news and told you all the same things again. How this is all Donald Trump's fault. These are all things that he did to our country. And we told you. We told you, if you voted for Donald Trump, see how awful this is, you should have listened to us. You should have believed the experts. But because you didn't, see, this is your fault. This is your fault for thinking for yourselves. This is your fault for not listening to us, for not believing us in our Ivy League degrees. Of course, that was a blatant lie too, and the stock market recovered and is now hitting record highs again. So where are all those so-called experts? Where is all of corporate media? Where do they go? I don't hear them apologizing. I don't hear them being on there and saying, hey, you know what? We were wrong. My bad. You know, next time, maybe we won't jump to conclusions so quick and not try to manipulate your opinions. Of course, we know that will never, ever happen. They will just continue to lie to you, the American people. And you even have like Elizabeth Warren, who's quick to go on social media and lie to everybody repeatedly. And of course, I think she said the economy, and like she said with the tariffs, how all these bad things are going to happen, and they didn't. And now even fake news has to call her out for this. This is hilarious.
And people that don't like the president and don't want things to work. And, you know, like Senator Elizabeth Warren will come on and say, inflation's out of control and the economy is getting killed by what's happening by these tariffs. None of these horrible things have happened, but they still talk like it's happening. It's amazing.
Right. None of these horrible things have happened. The eggs didn't happen. The stock market didn't happen. The tariffs didn't happen. They were all wrong. Okay, where is Rand Paul? I'm sure he's all over the internet now, right? Jumping on fake on CNN or MSNBC and how saying that, oh, you know, I was wrong. Has he even admitted it? Is he posting saying, hey, look how great United States is doing. We should all be helpful. You know, we should all be happy. We should all be unite now. You know, we were wrong and Donald Trump was right. And, you know, we all love the country, the United States of America. And so we would rather be wrong in the United States to survive. And not only survive, but also to thrive. That shouldn't we all agree that we want the United States to be successful? I mean, isn't this great news? Right? Q2 up 3%. Inflation came under at 2%. Shouldn't everybody be excited right now? Shouldn't the Democrats be, you know, going like, this is so great. You know, we helped pass the CR. And so, you know, we put down party lines. We put that aside. And we worked with Donald Trump to make your lives better. Of course, not one word from them. Just crickets. Because this is a truth about the Democrats and their friends in corporate media. They would rather United States collapse than admit they were wrong and lose power. Never ever doubt that for a single second with the Democrat Party. All they care about is their own power. They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, they will do anything for power. They do not care. Not for a single moment. But now that we're able to expose this and show that they are lying to you again, as win after win after win stacks up, you would think that they learned some lessons. But it's so bad that even the mainstream media, did I add that to here? Even the mainstream media, they have to actually admit that Donald Trump is doing well. So this is CNBC. U.S. economy grew at 3% rate. This is better than expected pace. Even Donald Trump's tariffs hit. Not even that Donald Trump's tariffs hit, because Donald Trump's tariffs hit. Business Insider. More winning. Second quarter GDP rises 3% despite despite tariff fear-mongering. Right. See, it was all fear-mongering. It was all about growing the government and taking away your freedoms. This tariffs have exposed exactly how the sham was operating. Is what they do is they lie to you, is that they would have all these other countries, right, had tariffs on us. There was over 170 countries that stopped our goods from going into their market. If it's so good for them, then why is it not good for us? The one thing they can never explain to you. And then on top of that, when we brought the tariffs back, they then lied and called it, said that it was going to be a tax. And that, of course, was also not true. And so what did they do when they didn't put in all these tariffs? Is then that they grew the federal government over time, right? Because they kept sending your manufacturing jobs and your corporations overseas for cheap goods. We know what we think about cheap labor. Right? The Democrats pretend that they care about the worker, but they had no issue taking your jobs and sending them overseas and having no interest on what those companies were doing across seas, how young children were working in the factories, or how they were being treated. All of a sudden, the Democrats had no care whatsoever. So all these goods, they flood into the American market, and businesses start going under, except for the big, giant corporations get huger and huger and huger. And then in addition to that, which is great for the Democrats, is the federal government also kept growing because they created the problem. And now their solution was, of course, more government, more taxes, and then hiring more federal workers that were then dependent on the federal government. And instead of producing actual goods and services that you, the American people, would use, instead what they would do is that then they would go and create all these useless people with these good, government jobs that you can't get fired for, thus encouraging mediocrity and incompetence instead of merit and exceptionalism. See, that was the entire lie this entire time. And they could never let you know that they were lying to you. So they lied about all the cheap goods coming into this country. But ask yourself this: what has actually gotten cheaper? What? When has your life gotten better? See, everything has gotten more and more and more expensive as things have gone up. And this says cheap on, okay, so that's not relevant to what we're talking about. There's a comment on the side. But the lie of things being cheaper for you, the American people. On their side, the Democrat side, right? The federal government gets bigger, your jobs go overseas. Now, they have to stop you from knowing the truth. That when we use tariffs, just like other places use tariffs, what happens to here in the United States? All of a sudden, we get all this revenue coming in that makes the United States filthy rich. Hundreds of billions of dollars. And then on the other side of that coin, now these companies that took all their jobs overseas away from you have to come back to the United States, and now they're building factories here in America, thus giving good producing jobs here in the United States, where you're actually producing a product that grows the economy, not some useless person sitting in an office somewhere that a social justice warrior or a DEI executive, right? Career useless people are going away. And thus we can start getting rid of the federal government. Did you know that we used to not have an income tax? The reason we used to not have an income tax here in the United States was because that we were paid for the federal government with tariffs. That we have the best economy in the world. Everybody wants to do business here in the United States of America, thanks to capitalism and thanks to merit. The things that the Democrats are trying to take away from you, the American people. And the Democrats and then their buddies in the deep state, who we call like these unelected bureaucrats, these officials, like Jerome Powell, is trying to stop the progress of our country. As he has gone, he is stopping interest rates from going down. This is truly horrible and a backstab to us, the American people, as Jerome Powell again left interest rates up. There is no reason whatsoever not to drop interest rates. And his excuse is the same lie these experts are telling right from the beginning of the year that we've proven to be false. That the tariffs were going to cause inflation. The tariffs cannot cause inflation. What causes inflation, the definition of inflation, is too much money chasing too few goods. The only people that can cause inflation are the federal government by printing money for no reason, spending more than they have. What did the Biden administration do? $5 trillion in, they spent $7 trillion, and then they printed trillions and trillions of dollars on top of that. And then we all saw what happened in the last 4 years. As inflation went wild and all the costs went up quick, thanks to the Biden administration. Now we have a chance to fix it. This is the thing that the Democrats can never let you know. And this is why people like Powell are trying to obstruct Donald Trump at every step of the way, because people like Powell will lose power. The minute you realize that you don't need a deep state, the minute you realize that we don't need a Federal Reserve, all their power and control over you goes away, as he's artificially keeping rates up. And we have a lot of history to prove this. When inflation goes down, just like we showed, under 2%, and when GDP is going up at 3%, you don't need interest rates this high. Now, the correlation between interest rates and inflation doesn't exist. And so he is blatantly and obviously lying. And the reason he is doing it to try to keep the deep state in as much power as possible. Do not doubt me for a single second. Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he will not fire Powell. I don't know how much longer Powell's going to be able to last under this amount of pressure, but you get asked, how can he fire Powell? Can Donald Trump fire Powell? And the answer is it's complicated. So technically, yes, he can fire Powell, but he has to have a way to do so, because the Federal Reserve, which is actually not a government, they're lying in the way that they're worded, because you would think that this is a federal organization, but they're not. They're a private business. They're a cartel. And they're separate. They're supposed to be separate from the federal government. As the politicians, long time ago, gave up their rights again to the deep state. And now we suffer. And that makes it harder to fire someone like Jerome Powell, because he can go to court and it's very hard to actually fire him. You have to show, and I think that they can, that he is blatantly obstructing. And with him refusing the lower rates, there is no other reason for him to do this. There is not a single reason that is legitimate for him not to lower interest rates. Not a one. Hopefully people understand and realize that. And hopefully the pressure keeps up. Because this is the thing, when we do it, now we have independent creators. And now that we have so much people following on all the social media across the internet, now that we can reach millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of people, that we can create so much pressure now that the fake news, the corporate media, absolutely envies. That all the things that they always had hoped that they had is now going away to us, because you want the truth. Just simple honesty. And you, the independent creator, the independent thinkers, you just want to know that when you're being told something, that you can then come up and make up your own mind. That's why people like here, like the CASHLOREN show, is growing so quick. And all the other independent creators out there, and why the mainstream media has lost all their influence, and why the Democrats, as much as they run and cry, if we just ignore them, they have nothing anymore. With that, we're at the top of the hour. The rest of these stories are going to go back in the stack. Something I'm going to start doing now that new is we're going to start going live on Rumble for an after show. So if you want to do that, you can head over to over at Locals at Rumble and join us, and you can join the thoughts. And we'll continue to talk through these stacks. It's only $5 a month to support on Rumble and help independent creators stay independent, as we greatly appreciate it. So we're going to end the regular live show, and then we come back. We're going to be over at Locals. I hope you join there. Well, independent thinkers, we have come to the top of another hour. The rest of the stories will have to go back in the stack. If you enjoyed this content, take a moment, hit the subscribe, turn on notifications. Most importantly, share a conservative message with your friends and family. We will be back Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on the CASHLOREN Show. We will go and we will expose and fight the fake news networks who have been getting away with lying to you for decades. Our content will always be free, but if you'd like to support more, you can do so monetarily over at Locals at the CASHLOREN Show. And there's great rewards and benefits for doing so. For only about a cup of coffee a month, you will receive exclusive articles, and you'll have your name at the end of the video, just like these other fine patriots have. If that sounds interesting to you, go over to Locals right now for just a cup of coffee a month and help independent creators stay free, keep the lights on, and continue to expose the fake news networks. We'll see you again on the next episode. This is the CASHLOREN Show.